Right, everyone. We have an interesting article right here, link in the description, archived, of course. The legacy media claiming that the legacy media is stumping for Trump. You heard that right. It's legacy mediaception. Link in the description again, archived, of course. Chris Matthews rambling the other day about how Trump is co-opting the legacy media to try to push his agenda. Um, in the preponderance of articles about the Trump administration, let me ask you this, and it really is a rare A and B question. A, are they stumping for Trump? Or B, are they generally critical of pretty much everything he does? The answer obviously is B. I have to do this shit for a living. I have to slog through the filth that is the legacy media in order to garner news articles, mostly for critical reasons. I have seen probably a 90% profile of negative articles with regards to Donald Trump and everything he's doing. It doesn't even matter whether what he's doing is right or wrong. It's treated as wrong regardless of what he's doing. Then you have some fluff pieces, admittedly. Of course, occasionally you get favorable coverage sometimes from Fox, but in the legacy media and much of the missing link media, so the Voxes, the Salons, the Rolling Stones, the Huffington Post, the Hills, and so forth, generally speaking, it's almost entirely negative. It's almost like if Donald Trump were to rush into a burning building to save several orphans, he would be blamed for depriving the funerary industry. I've made that comparison before. Trump cures cancer. Well, he's attacking the pharmaceutical companies. The hyperbolic comparisons like that. Maybe it's hyperbolic, but it's pretty close on the nose anyway. Donald Trump, in their minds, can literally do no right. There's nothing that he can possibly do to appease these people, and he's learned that. In his first term, Donald Trump extended an olive branch to the Uniparty, and he expected that if he did that, they would go along with him, at least in general, and he was wrong. So he stacked his cabinet with neocons, and he tried to play nice with the media, and then eventually realized that was a bad mistake and started cycling people out, started shunning legacy media interviews and stuff like that. In his second term, Trump already knows that that's a bad idea, and so he's not bothering. And so they're even more pissed at him now because he won't grant them interviews. Oh my God, he won't let members of the cabinet, other than J.D. Vance, generally speaking, even talk to them. And he's enforcing a policy which is different than the one that he was enforcing before. He's been much more of a workhorse this time around than after the 2016 election, which I believe is a good thing. If you oppose Trump's ideology, or if you've got a D after your name, of course, obviously, you oppose him. He has now realized this. There's not going to be any negotiating with the dregs of society that are cluttering up DC. It's not possible. Even some Republicans like Mitch McConnell and people like that, there's no way to reason with these people. They've got no reason in them. The legacy media, therefore, stating that Trump is using the legacy media that is openly hostile towards him, try to push his policies, is absolutely hilarious. Um, Name a legacy media network other than Fox News that's actually put out a positive article about anything that Donald Trump has done. We'll be talking about a number of hit pieces later, like the obviously satirical Trump Riviera bit and stuff like that. It's open hostility. There's no attempt to fairly cover the news. There's no attempt to give him a chance. In fact, in some cases, some of these people are openly rooting for disaster. They're hoping the economy is upturned. They're hoping that war breaks out. They're hoping for a million different disasters just because Orange Man bad. Now, when Biden first got into office, I was actually talking with my mother about this earlier, and I pointed out, because I'm sane, when Biden first got into office, while I wasn't expecting him to do a good job, I was hoping he would do a good job. I wasn't hoping for massive inflation. I wasn't hoping for war. I wasn't hoping for people to suffer because I'm not goddamn insane. But it seems that a large number of people right now are openly rooting for these sorts of things to happen and having unrealistic expectations, by the way, sometimes in the process. They're hoping that disaster strikes, just to spite Orange Man. Well, we can't let him win. We got to start a war. We can't let him win. We've got to make sure that inflation stays sticky and in place. We can't let him win. We've got to make sure that the border crisis isn't solved and like weird stuff like that. Where they're hoping for crime to rise and stuff like that. I've seen it. I've seen it publicly posted from accounts that I can vouch for actually being liberals. Now, normally you would think, okay, well, maybe this is a Trump fan who's trying to make liberals look bad. And that does admittedly happen, by the way. But some of these people genuinely are actual liberals. They've actually got the little D after their name. They're hoping for failure. They're hoping that the economy is turned upside down. They're hoping that everything collapses. Um, I've never been a fan of this, and I realize that some conservative commentators, and I'm not one of them, 'cause I'm more libertarian, but whatever. People lump me in with conservatives, and at this point, I might as well throw in with them because there are more sane people in the Republican than the Democratic Party. John Fetterman should switch the letter after his name. That would be hysterical. Um, there are people out there that are rooting for failure. I myself have not. Some conservatives has done this too, like under Biden. They're like, well, if the economy crashes and burns, at the very least politically, that's a good thing. Okay, well, it gets your guy back into office, but you've caused people to suffer. I never understood the mentality. I guess it's an offshoot of accelerationism. I'm not into that. I don't want people to suffer. I want people generally to be happy and be able to do what they want to do and live under a government that actually gives a shit about them. We didn't have that for 4 years. The Trump government gives a shit. You do not have to ideologically align with him to understand at this point, after so many years, if you're ignoring the legacy media propaganda, Trump gives a crap about what's happening to the country. You may not agree with his proposals as to how to solve the problems that are there, but he is at least trying, which is something we haven't seen in a while. And of course, in Trump's first term, again, he was stymied by people who were, again, adversarial towards him. And he didn't quite understand this at first because he had never been in political office and people expected the moon on a stick and they only got the stick. And the rest is history. I'm rooting for the Trump administration to do well. Regardless of which party runs the next administration, I'm rooting for them to do well. I'm hoping that they'll do a good job. That's all I'm asking. At the very least, try to do a good job. Hell, Jimmy Carter tried to do a good job. He didn't, but, in the end, at least he tried, rest in peace. But Trump is being highly effective. Cutting wasteful spending is a fairly unifying feature of sociopolitics and economics. Most people agree with doing so. Doge is a good idea. Deportations are, basically a politicized issue, but they are necessary. If you're going to have a nation, you can have as much sympathy as you want for people who have been illegally in the country but done nothing else wrong. But we do have to have law and order at the border. Otherwise, we don't have a country at all. It simply does not exist anymore, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, on down the line. Legacy media claiming that Trump is using the legacy media as a propagandistic mouthpiece. Well, you're part of the legacy media and you're lambasting Trump at the moment. Clearly, you're not Trump's mouthpiece now, are you? And you're part of that same legacy media that you're referring to. Well, that kind of nullifies your argument now, doesn't it? That's about all. Peace out.